So my guest today's story has a direct link to this very television show. But before we get there, Deanna, it started off at the beginning in a Christian home. You grew up in a Christian home.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, I grew up in a Christian home with 4 other siblings, all brothers. And my mom especially was, it was really important that she take us to Sunday school and church every Sunday. So I grew up hearing about Jesus and reading and singing about him. But at that point in my life, it was more important to, the world around me was more real than that. Even though I heard all about him, it wasn't real.
At 17 years old, you found love.
At 17 years old, I met this boy in the nearby community. We fell in love. He gave me a ring that Christmas. I was 17, he was 16 years old. Our parents were very shocked. They told us, you need to give the ring back. Yeah. And in my still rebellious nature, I said, no, I'm not giving that ring back. I'm keeping it. We're getting married. And they said, knowing that I meant it, they said, well, at least agree not to marry for 3 years. Wait a while. I said, sure, we can do that. We'll wait a few years.
And then you found yourself pregnant.
Then 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant. And all of a sudden, that wedding was taking place that June, 1 month after my graduation.
And how did you feel growing up in a certain home and then all of a sudden here you are pregnant, married at a very young age?
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
Oh, it was a lot of emotional ups and downs about that. I was happy about it in one sense to be married and having a child, but at the same time pretty young to be handling all those changes. And so there were a lot of emotions for both of us.
You say you grew up in a town called Blissville?
Actually, we lived in Blissville after we settled down and married. It was near where I grew up in Fredericton Junction. And Blissville was supposed to be where we would live out our wedded bliss, right? But it didn't happen that way.
Your husband eventually left you.
He left,
and
yes.
2 children.
Yes. He decided, this is too much for me. I'm too young to be settled with a wife and children, and I'm out of here. And at that time, I had a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old baby. Wow. And so he left, and I was devastated. Yeah. I was just completely, I felt like the biggest reject in the world at the same time.
What did that look like for you and your relationship with God at that moment?
God was very far away to me then. Instead of turning to him, for a couple of years after my husband left, I got back into the wild partying scene that I had been in before, and just wanting to spend as much time with my peers as possible, thinking that would be the answer and bring me the comfort and the help that I desperately needed.
Yeah. Tell me about what it was like to be a single mom as well, of 2 really young kids, and you're also really young.
Yes, I was not even, well, I was barely 20 at the time. And I really found that I felt it was too much, but yet I loved my kids and I wanted to give them the best, but I didn't know what that would be. I didn't know what I could offer them. I had a grade 12 education, and I decided to just work at little jobs that I could and make ends meet and be home with my kids as much as possible. But inside, I was a mess. Yeah.
So your mom tells you about this church service
yes.
happening.